Welcome to the Right Hand Roadmap, the podcast for seconds in command of founder-led companies. I'm your host, Megan Long, owner of Second First. In each episode, we show you the path to success on your journey as the #2 leader in entrepreneurial companies. I am so happy you are here. Today, we are talking about pre-work to do headed into quarterly planning. Quarterly planning isn't just about setting goals. It's about making sure the company is aligned and focused and equipped to execute. As a second in command, you always want this process to be smooth and productive. If you're paying a facilitator to come in and do your quarterly planning, you also want to make sure you get the most out of that investment. A little preparation on the front end can mean the difference between leaving with a clear and actionable plan versus a chaotic or unfocused meeting. So let's walk through some steps that you can take before your next quarterly planning session. First is reviewing the last quarter's results. Even if you're still in the tail end of the current quarter, you're going to want to look back and see how you've done. This starts with the financials. If you don't have direct access to your financial statements, schedule time with your CFO, your accounting team, whoever it is that is in charge of those, and have them walk you through it, explain everything to you. So, did you hit revenue? If not, why not? Did you see any customer attrition or client churn? Were your expenses higher or lower than you expected? Anticipate any questions your CEO might ask you as well. All right, so now that we've covered the numbers, we want to look at last quarter's rocks. Now, if you don't use the term rocks, these are just the goals that you set at the beginning of the quarter to accomplish. So did you accomplish everything you and the leadership team set out to accomplish? Who was off track? How can this be avoided this upcoming quarter? There are usually two main reasons that someone does not finish their rocks on time. And that is they did not set aside dedicated focus time to actually work on their rocks, or they didn't have access to the people that they needed as resources in order to finish them. So look at that as well. Was someone else on the team unwilling to set aside their time to help someone get their rocks accomplished? What bottlenecks might have slowed down progress? So you've looked at the financials and you've looked at the rocks. Next, you want to look at just general metrics, key metrics, and performance. This is where you look at sales reports, operational KPIs. If you use scorecards or dashboards, you really just need to review each team's scorecard or dashboard and look for trends. As you're identifying these trends, look at where are you ahead and where are you falling behind. So the first step was just really looking at the full picture, all the data, all the information. Next, you want to meet with department leads. I recommend trying to go in fully aligned with your team as much as possible to any quarterly planning session. If you've ever been blindsided by someone during a quarterly or annual planning meeting, you know how disruptive it can be. You feel like you're put on the spot. You may all go down a rabbit hole of issues that aren't the most important issues. It can be really unpleasant. I am not suggesting you try and control your team or manipulate the planning session, but you should already know what the most important things in each department are. So as you set up these meetings with each of your department heads, you want to ask them, what are you thinking about rocks for the upcoming quarter? What do you see as the most important things that we need to work on as a company? You don't have to use this time to try and steer them one way or the other. You're really just getting their point of view, but at least you will know going into that quarterly planning session how you might want to respond if they bring something up. It gives you a little bit of a head start from having to think on your feet inside the meeting. And then third is taking focus time for your own pre-planning session, just you. So what do you see as the big rocks for the next quarter? What needs to shift on market conditions, company goals, or results from the previous quarter? Do you have the right people? Do you have the right budget? Do you have the right tools all in place to execute on your annual plan? If not, what holes do you need to fill? Are there any hiring or training or technology that needs to be addressed? You're not necessarily coming up with brand new ideas or brand new initiatives during this focus time. Use your annual plan as the North Star and make sure that everything you're coming up with is helping that become reality. And then fourth and finally is aligning with your CEO or aligning with your entrepreneur. I always recommend setting up a separate one-on-one with you and your CEO to get on the same page in advance of quarterly planning. I cannot tell you how important it is for you both to walk into that room on the same page as a united front in front of your leadership team. And you need to hear from their mouth what is their vision for the upcoming quarter. Make sure nothing about their annual plan has changed. You're not having to make any major pivots. But here's where your specialty as the second in command comes in. You have to ensure that their priorities align with what is realistic and achievable. So you need to really look at the amount of effort and the amount of impact their things will have on the business this upcoming quarter. You've already done all the work of looking at what resources you have, what gaps you have, what bottlenecks you have. So you have a much better idea on the very realistic state of the company than they might. Now, sometimes your entrepreneur or CEO won't have a ton of clarity. So there are some questions that are helpful in getting these answers out of your CEO, especially if they sometimes struggle to rein in or express what their vision actually is. So here they are. First, what are your short-term concerns over the next 6 months? What are your long-term concerns over the next several years? What are we doing well, either in delivering our products or services or internally as a company? What are opportunities that we could take advantage of this quarter? And then finally, what questions should we be asking? This is my favorite exercise to do. What questions should we be asking? You do not have to have the answers. These are just thoughtful questions that you should probably dig into and get answers to sometime soon, but you don't have to have the answers today. So some examples are, is our line of credit large enough to support the inventory we need? Or do we have enough people to onboard every prospect that's in our pipeline right now? And then finally, when you're meeting with your CEO, you want to confirm the agenda for quarterly planning. So go through maybe what your stock agenda is for these types of sessions. And if there's any specific exercises they might want to do, confirm them at this time. So it sounds like a lot, but it's really just a couple days worth of work. And if you take the time to complete these steps before your next quarterly planning session, you'll walk in confident, prepared, and fully aligned as a leadership team so you can have those meaningful discussions and not waste time. Your role as a second in command or a COO is to bring clarity, to help prioritize, to bring that full picture of the business to the table, and ensure that you and your team can execute on any rocks that you come up with. This preparation ensures that you will be able to do just that. To find show notes and links for anything mentioned in this episode, visit secondverse.com/43. Be sure to subscribe to catch future episodes and leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Remember, you don't have to navigate being a second in command alone when you have the right hand roadmap.